welcome to Pensacola, first of all. You are the first governor to answer the call from those governors in Texas and Arizona. Now, you are going to commit law enforcement to fighting or battling the problem on the border. So here's the specific questions that we want to know. How soon will they be sent? How many? How long will they stay? What agencies? And what will their role be specifically, Governor?
So I think some of those remain to be determined because we're going to work in concert with the states to figure out where would be the most beneficial, where we can make the most impact. They've been requested to go for 16 days across a variety of different functions, and so we anticipate it being in that 2+ week period. How many of them? Again, once we work with the folks in Texas and Arizona, we can get a sense of what would work and what would be effective. There's also supplies they've asked. We're looking to see what they want in terms of like UAVs or some of these other things. So all that is going to be worked out. We think this is something that they need on an emergency basis for a matter of weeks. That's what we're anticipating, and obviously as we have finite numbers and those get cemented, we'll be, I know the sheriffs are going to be talking about in their community how many people from Lee are going or whatnot, and so, but I do think it'll be meaningful. They have day jobs, they got to worry about that, they can't just do, but it's the type of thing where we've sent people to California when they've had wildfires, we've sent people to Louisiana for hurricanes, states have sent people to help us in the past, and so there's certain disaster emergency situations where we just tend to step up and help one another, and so that's what we're doing here. Yes, sir.
Will it only be law enforcement, or was there any consideration of using National Guard or any other forces to go there and help?
So as of now, it's just our law enforcement agency. So FDLE, Highway Patrol, Fish and Wildlife, and then the Sheriff's Departments. Although this is just a recent request, we went out and said who's interested in helping. They immediately, their hands went up. I bet you there's probably more agencies throughout Florida, police departments and sheriff's departments, who probably are going to want to get involved and help out as well. Yes, ma'am.
So obviously these are our local sheriff's deputies or local law enforcement paid for with our local taxpayer money, and they're going to be sent to other communities. I know in Escambia County, gun violence is an issue. You've been talking all this time about how meth is an issue here. Is there at all any worry about sending the local law enforcement away to deal with another community's problems when we have?
Well, I think what I think what we've made the point of, Ashley made it, I made it, is that meth is coming from the southern border. I mean, let's just be honest. If that border was under control, we would have less meth pouring into Florida communities, and particularly in the northern part of the state. So we believe it's in our interest that this be gotten under control. We think if we are able to help bring it under control, that will benefit Floridians. And so first and foremost, it is in our interest, given how much, I mean, I don't know what the sheriff's, but it's 95% of the meth is coming from across the southern border at this point. And it's a huge problem. So that alone is enough. Then when you have somebody who, because they've stopped interior enforcement, you have an 82-year-old woman, in Martin County, guess what? You're going to see more of that stuff happen unless this gets under control. So it absolutely helps the safeties of our communities here. Now, we do things to help out even when it's not directly related, but in this situation, it is directly related. I think it's the right thing to do. I think they would have our back, and when we have disasters, so it's only appropriate we have theirs. But fortunately, this is an example of it really serving a core state interest, just given how we've already, I mean, I don't even know how many, we're over 1,000 miles. We're the closest here. We came here because it's the closest we can get to the southern border and still be in the state of Florida, and yet we're still very far away from it, yet the impacts are absolutely felt in communities all across our country, including the state of Florida.
Have any additional sheriff's departments committed besides the ones that are here today?
So these have committed. It was an initial call. They responded very quickly. We do think that you'll end up having more that do, and obviously we'll let people know when that happens. Yes, sir.
I wanted to thank you for keeping the toll lifted on Garcon Point Bridge because of the state of the conditions here. Are you interested in acquiring that bridge for the state? Has there been any progress on moving towards that?
We are discussing ways with my DOT to make a beneficial impact for the people here. You know, if you look, I mean, the toll is like it's like $5 toll now. I mean, it's crazy. So you have people going back and forth. So we're trying to figure out, it's obviously had a lot of problems. Is there a way that we could be involved to potentially bring some toll relief to the folks here? We don't have anything to announce today, but we are having discussions about how we could impact that going forward. And you know, it was really unfortunate what happened with that in terms of Sally. I mean, there was obviously other flooding and stuff, but I mean, that was just such an avoidable thing, and it caused a lot of people a lot of inconvenience to have to go all the way around, and it's just not easy to do. Obviously, it caused a lot of damage, and so we think we've addressed going forward in those situations, people having a clear responsibility to make sure this stuff is secured and make sure that this stuff is not going to be in a situation where it's going to do that. But I do think looking at how we do the bridge going forward, I do think that that's something that warrants discussion. And when we have an announcement, if I can have an announcement to say we're going to lower the toll, trust me, these guys will be there. We'll make sure that we do it. Salzman, you want to do that? Okay. So we'll go from there. Okay. Anyone else that didn't get a chance to ask a question?
Governor, I have one more, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Now, we talk about the high number of overdoses in this area. As a matter of fact, the District 1 medical examiner talked about that last month when she said there was an astronomical amount of overdoses in this area. We're talking meth, drugs that are laced with fentanyl. Are you saying today that the amount of drugs and the amount of overdoses that are happening here are a result of Biden's policies of opening up the border?
So obviously we had drugs prior to January 20th. I mean, that's obvious. You can see that. We saw overdoses increase in 2020 largely because I think of the fallout from COVID, people feeling isolated, just how people's lives change. Even though Florida, we were the freest state, you couldn't escape that. So it's a problem. It's not like this is the only thing that's creating the problem. But I can tell you, I met in my office just a couple weeks ago with a bunch of the rural North Florida sheriffs. They had like 5 issues, and it was number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 were meth. That's what's happening. And they say it's all coming across the southern border at this point. Obviously, we didn't have 0 coming across prior to January 20th. I think we understand that. It's a constant issue. But the increase that you're seeing absolutely is going to mean more of the meth in our communities, and it is going to exacerbate the underlying problems. And so if we can push back on that, we could get back to where we were prior to January 20th. It doesn't mean you don't have to deal with it. You will absolutely still have to deal with it. And as the Attorney General said, I mean, the fentanyl that's coming in, there's a lot of fentanyl on the, I mean, they've already brought in enough to do so much damage. We're going to continue having to deal with that. Fentanyl overdoses were up sharply all across the country over the last year. Very, very potent and powerful and nasty stuff, and it's really destroyed and taken a lot of people's lives. So this is not, you could secure that border tomorrow. It does not mean that you would not have to deal with what we're having to deal with drug abuse. But if you see it flooding in like this, and you know that's the number 1 source, I think it would be foolish for us not to do all that we can to try to fight back on behalf of the people of Florida. And that's what we're doing today. So we'll have more information about the contours of the mutual assistance. But you see all these folks here stepping up. I'm sure in each one of these sheriff's departments, they have deputies that are chomping at the bit to be able to go help. Because, yeah, you watch, and obviously they do a lot in their communities, but you see these images on the news. It just seems like everything's out of control. That's not how a sovereign country behaves. A sovereign country is able to secure its borders. And I think that there's a lot of folks who are like, man, I wish I could do something to help. Well, they have an opportunity to do it. I think you're going to see a lot of hands go up saying, hey, send me, I want to be helpful. So when we have all the contours of everything, we'll obviously let everybody know. But we're in the game here. We're answering the call. And I think some other states are going to follow our lead at this point. So thanks, everybody. We'll be back soon.